Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater, and welcome to the Aftermath, a series where I like to take a look at films once they release and break down their box office, their budget, and what their critical response is, what the audience response is, and to kind of just have a general discussion about the film itself. And these are always fun series to do because I just love talking about the nitty gritty of films, especially movies like Brightburn. It's a lower budget superhero knockoff horror film opening up on Memorial Day weekend, which is notoriously known for just low box office returns. Remember Solo last year? I mean, hell, Aladdin was #1 this year, even just kind of narrowly squeaking out a victory, which isn't really saying much. But then again, that movie was always kind of going to be held to a different standard than Brightburn. And so I think it's going to be interesting to look at the whole setup here and to get an idea. So first things first, let's take a look here at the general box office. So according to Box Office Mojo, the film has pulled in a whopping $9.5 million during its opening few days. And that is not bad considering the production budget was $6 million. That's not bad at all. That's pretty solid. $9.5 million on a $6 million budget, not including production or marketing costs, obviously. But look here at the worldwide, $17.3 million. That is nearly 3 times the production budget, which is usually measured as a success for a film, right? Now, is this movie going to go on to gross 100 million or something like that? Probably not, but nearly 3 times the amount it cost to make in the first couple days is not bad on a worldwide release. Hopefully the movie itself will get to about 20 to 25 million domestically, therefore putting it squarely in the profitable margin. But that's not bad. That's not too shabby at all. I know Grace Randolph tried to kind of crap on the movie today in her breakdown, but she failed to look at the production budget as well as the worldwide gross for her movie math video. So I just kind of want to call that out and say it's not as big of a failure as you're trying to make it out to be. But then again, when it comes to James Gunn, Grace, she's not a huge James Gunn fan. She's really not. Anyway, so coming over here to the cinema score, which was a little bit, I'm not surprised at the score, a bit based upon other reviews that I'd seen, but it only gave it a C+ cinema score. And that kind of falls in line with the Metacritic, which puts it at about 45% based on 29 critics. Now, cinema score and Metacritic are 2 different metrics. Obviously, cinema score is asking people what they thought of the film as they were exiting. A C+ rating, while not great, is not the worst thing in the world. The audiences that enjoyed those kind of movies are going to sit there and give it a good rating, whereas Metacritic is more, I'd say, more direct in the way that it approaches how it criticizes these films. But the biggest one absolutely is going to be Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter, which here puts it at 56% off a total of 114 reviews, but the audience score is a 69% based off of 1,474 verified reviews. Now, this is the very first weekend that Rotten Tomatoes is doing their verified review score. So if you bought a ticket for the movie through Fandango, you were then able to rate the movie and have it go towards the audience score. If you didn't, you weren't able to, and this is the first weekend to see how that plays out. So the audience people that did show up, those 1,400 people that bought through Fandango, seem to like the movie. We don't know what anyone who bought through AMC or Regal or Cinemark or any other outlet is going to think about the film, which I do think is a little bit on the iffy side. So take this particular metric with an absolute grain of salt. But coming over to what the critics themselves are saying about the movie, it's a mixed bag, but definitely more on the side of negative, with James Bertinelli here from Real Views saying Brightburn can at least boast an interesting premise, not that it does anything with it. And Richard Roper here, another rotten review, says the premise is intriguing, but this gruesome origin story plays just like another slasher film with the idiots for victims. But isn't that, I mean, to be fair, we want kind of idiots in these movies, don't we? We want people to go, you dumb, you gonna die. I'm the smart person, because you want to put yourself in the shoes of the main character. So the main character would make smart decisions because you yourself view yourself as the main character of your own story, and you don't think that you're dumb. But the people around you, you probably think that they're dumb. That's just the way that it goes. But it goes on to say here, Barry Hertz, Globe and Mail, says, although Brightburn's final seconds hint at James's more finely attuned cinematic sensibilities, this film is not nearly as strong as its villain. It is, however, just as immature. And I mean, he's obviously referring to the James Gunn tweets there. He's referring to all that. But again, to point out, Gunn didn't have much to do with this outside of being an executive producer. His name was all over it, but it was written by his family members and directed by a friend. Again, they used him to get the $6 million to make the movie, and that's really about it. But anyway, I did want to point a positive review here from Mikhail Zorilla from Espinov, if I'm saying that correctly. It says, Brightburn succeeds as a pastime of terror that shows the dark side of the superhero film, but does not measure up when developing it with necessary variety. So obviously showing us here the world breakdown, or like the dark side of being a superhero without really kind of opening up the world. But from what I'm hearing, from what I've been hearing of people who have seen it, is it does leave it open for sequels. Will we get to see a dark Batman story? Or, well, if it's the opposite, would it be the White Knight? That's my question. But then it always boils down to what exactly are the audiences saying about it. And taking a look at Rotten Tomatoes here, we see Tony P says, the killing scenes were a little grotesque for my liking. To me, the scenes were unnecessary, but I don't think I'll be watching the sequel. Other than the killing scenes, the rest of the movie was okay. And that's a verified review with three stars. Blake S here says, the premise was great. Unfortunately, the film didn't capitalize on it, and we were left with a generic horror. Still a fun time at the movies with an interesting ending. And Christopher, another verified review with 3.5 stars, says it was a nice take on superhero trope, nice kills, and No Name with 5 stars and no verification saying, I recommend this film if you love the superhero genre, which makes me really beg the question, James, is that you? I obviously kid. So then the question does boil down to, is this movie a success? Can you look at Brightburn and think to yourself, out of the course of the first few days, is this movie at all successful? And you know what? Yeah, it is. It is very much successful in the way that it was marketed, in the way that it was put together, and the fact that it got around the controversy surrounding James Gunn, the fact that it still opened up alongside Aladdin and grossed $9.5 million in a weekend that has not been good for any movie for quite some time. And it grossed nearly its entire production budget back, or 3 times the production budget back worldwide in the first couple days. So then looking at the future of Brightburn, if it's a success for Sony, Sony is clearly going to pump out the money to do a sequel. What Sony should do, and this is just, of course, my own editorial here, is follow in line with how Jason Blum tackles horror movies. Give them a $5 to $10 million budget, smaller micro-budgeted films. Let the filmmakers experiment with these types of different takes on films, different takes on horror genre, so on and so forth. Put it out there and see what happens. We're going to have to get back to a time when micro-budget is going to become a major staple in film going forward, simply because the tent poles are choking out the way that these companies are making money. Just to give you an idea, where we are right now in 2019 is about $4.5 billion worldwide for movies being earned, right? About $4.5 billion for everything from what I've been reading. Maybe in the summer months so far. But as a result of that, it's still 10% less than last year, which was looked at as a banner year, even though more or fewer and fewer people are going to the theaters, right? We're starting to see these movies, these tent poles take over, and their big numbers are trumpeted up as being the big wins. But at the end of the day, when you look at the back accounting of it, these movies are more often than not running at a loss, hoping that one will pick up and win. And if they can find a way to lower the cost, usually with talent, and production costs, then they can find a way to maybe tell better stories with better characters and then make the money the old-fashioned way rather than just relying entirely on spectacle. I look at a movie like Brightburn and I think that it's an interesting premise. I haven't seen it yet, but I do want to go see it this week. It has an interesting premise, an interesting execution from what I've heard from my friends who have seen it, and it definitely is creepy and is worthy of the experience. And that to me is the biggest takeaway. But I leave it to you. Your thoughts, your opinions. Do you think Brightburn was a success? Do you think Brightburn was a failure? Are you planning to see it? Or if you have seen it, what are your general thoughts? Please let me know down in the comments. If you haven't already, please thumbs up the video, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one, and peace out. Hey, thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. But if you really want to help the channel, be sure to check out patreon.com/Matt Jarbo. There's $3 theater perks. Lots going to be going on with that, as well as the Facebook group, which is going to be only growing as time goes on. Anyway, thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.